Good evening from a park in Phoenix. Wanted to talk about travel and my mindset this evening and share a little story about what's kind of changed in the last, I don't know, 4 years or so. It started to occur when I moved to San Francisco. I grew up on the East Coast and I moved out to Seattle, technically Bellevue, for a summer internship. And I just remember falling in love with the landscape out there, the greenery, the lush greenery with the mountains and the water, the ocean. And I decided to move to San Francisco for potentially better opportunity. It was moved to the San Francisco team of the company that I was working for. And I remember driving around the Bay Area when I got there thinking, I think I got there in June or July. And I remember thinking to myself, is this how it always is? Is it this brown and dry all of the time? Where's the greenery? And I remember being kind of turned off by that, or just taken aback, I think. And I didn't like it. And I think at that time, I having grown up on the East Coast where it's just green everywhere, and then flying to Seattle and living there for 3 months, I was so used to just green, lush, beautiful places, but beautiful as in, I don't know, actually. Lush greenery, mountains, and I had gotten to San Francisco and expected the same. I kind of expected the whole US to be like that, just like lush greenery, trees, mountains everywhere, and it wasn't that. And I remember this kind of tension, this friction, because I didn't like it. I wanted that lush greenery. And after I was there about a year, bunch of road trips and exploring and going up to Tahoe, Big Sur, the Redwoods. I ended up moving out to Denver. And while I liked the mountains more, it was kind of this, I just remember this feeling in the back of my mind of, it's not Seattle and it's not the East Coast greenery. And I could never really get over that. It's like, oh, it's just so brown out here, And fast forward a couple years now, and I've been fortunate enough to drive all over the country. I don't know how many states I've been to, but I've probably been to or driven through well over half. Actually, I'm not sure about that. Maybe half plus. And I've been to Europe, I've been to Southeast Asia, and I'm really grateful for being able to have all of those experiences. But in the context of this story that I'm telling, I've seen so many different landscapes, and even just doing that, not even like trying to, or not even trying to learn about the history, or like go to a geology museum or whatever, just experiencing all of these different landscapes and places has broadened my perspective on just the world. And I find, or I found that when I came back to the US, I was craving the West, and specifically the Mountain West. And as I was driving out here, and as I was driving down from Denver to Phoenix, I found that my perspective, my mindset is just different now, in the sense that I can just appreciate the landscapes for who and what they are. And the reason, or another reason why I wanted to talk about this today, was kind of building off of yesterday's video about cringing at your past self as an indication of growth. I see that past Peter, who had only ever experienced the Northeast and Seattle, getting to San Francisco and thinking to himself, like, why is it so brown? You know, what? I oversimplify it a little bit. I mean, I did a lot of hikes and road trips, and I appreciated those. But it was just one of these like recurring thoughts that kept coming back of like, yeah, but it's not Seattle. it's not that lush greenery. And I see that mindset, and I kind of chuckle to myself as I also cringe at, and it's not his fault, but it's like, he just hasn't seen the world yet. He hasn't experienced enough landscapes and places to appreciate each place for how it is. All he knew was, you know, the whatever 20 years of growing up. Like that, I had traveled to a handful of places, but most of my reality was the Northeast and growing up in that type of landscape and geography. And I find that my mindset is just different now. And I really liked the road trip down from Denver to Phoenix. There's this part of Arizona on the northeast side of Phoenix, like this big mountain range. And honestly, I had no idea it existed. You know, I've seen it on Google Maps. I've been to Scottsdale before. I was here for a football game in college. But other than that, I don't think I've ever even like driven through Arizona. So I just remember driving through that mountain section of Arizona down here like a week ago and thinking, this is so cool. Like I didn't realize Arizona had this mountainous, like forested trees everywhere. Kind of reminded me of Tahoe, the same kind of like, I think they're a pine tree with the kind of orangey red dirt and mountains. And it was just not what I was expecting Arizona to be like. And then you continue to drive through these, all up and down these mountains, and then you kind of, I mean, the mountains went for a while, honestly, but you kind of settle out, and then all of a sudden these cacti start popping up, and it's just so cool. It's so cool. And my point of this video is, I don't see it as, oh, but it's not that green, lush, you know, Pacific Northwest or Northeast. That thought just doesn't even occur anymore. It's just the weather, the uniqueness of the beauty. I think one of the biggest strengths, unique, I don't know what the right word is, upsides of the US is the natural diversity of landscapes. All in one country. You have the Northeast, this like lush green forest, to the Great Plains, to the Mountain West, to the lush, like overgrowth Pacific Northwest, to the Pacific Coast, the red, like Martian-like desert of Utah, and down here, like the cacti and the straight up desert of Arizona. Like you have all of that in one country, and I think it's just so like, you don't get that in Europe, and that is one of the coolest things I have experienced in this country. And so anyway, my point being, I find that I just appreciate the place for what it is, and I'm just grateful for that. I mean, I'm grateful for all of the places that I've been to and the experiences that I've had, but I found that travel has expanded my mind in a lot more areas than I guess I would have expected. Another, just off the top of my head, is just, and I've talked about this before, but the kind of generalized problem solving skill that you develop. It's been kind of funny down here in Phoenix as I do some urban camping. There are some spots on the apps that I use here and there, but I kind of check them out. I'm like, probably wouldn't pick that as a first spot, but like, it's okay, whatever. But I've done this long enough, and I've done enough urban camping that I know what to look for. And I spend enough time on Google Maps that like I just know. And so I think it was last night, maybe the last 2 nights, I had done some scouting out of spots, but it was 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I hadn't decided where I was going to sleep the night. And I don't know what my past self would have thought about that. But I can imagine he would be amazed at that. Like, what do you mean you don't know where you, like, what? But yeah, and I'm not saying I'm gonna hit every spot 100% of the time. I've been lucky so far, but it's just funny. It's like, oh, I see the top down on Google Maps. I'm like, oh, I know what that looks like. And then I show up, and it's like, that's exactly what I envisioned. Perfect spot, no signs, enough cars, like perfect. So it's kind of fun. It kind of shows the growth and development that can happen when you do something enough times. And so anyway, back to this like generalized problem solving skill of, I broke my my fridge handle. There's a little handle on the top of the fridge that you like, kind of like this, you pull it out. I snapped part of the plastic off, and I was upset for like a millisecond, and then I was like, I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. I'll be able to fix it. And I find that mindset has also come with travel, because when you're backpacking in a city and you're going down new streets, and meeting new people and going to new restaurants and having to find your way around and find the train station and figure out, like, all of those just micro moments build up. And when you do those things long enough, you just develop those little micro skills. So anyway, appreciating landscapes for what they are, and the generalized problem solving skill of travel, from travel, developed from travel. I am very grateful to have done what I've done so far. And I wish to pass on the learnings to you. So anyway, see you tomorrow.